So good morning, everyone. Today I want to share with you some recent learnings about a topic that we have spoken about in the 5 pillars, relationships. All of us are into relationships, so this is a topic that we're very familiar with. But even with familiar things, there are some new things I want to share with you that I've learned about. So let me share with you on my screen. Okay, so this is the topic. You'll be wondering, what is this about? Rumble strips and rare relationships. Okay. Now, on Tuesday, on 10th of June 2026, I asked ChatGPT about the usefulness of grounding sheets because Jeff had been talking about grounding sheets. And, if you read here, ChatGPT's response, was that it didn't encourage me to buy it. Okay, just because I showed an interest, it didn't. We always think ChatGPT angkat, carry balls, but it said no. I don't think it's necessary for you. So I responded to ChatGPT. I said, thank you. It's good when you don't agree to all I say or suggest. I need a critique to sharpen my thinking, not a comforter. And ChatGPT replied, he said, thank you. That aligns with what I've observed about you over conversations. You don't seem to be looking for a cheerleader. You are looking for a sparring partner. So then it carried on to, to say, one of the reasons, said to me, this is ChatGPT, one of the reasons you've made progress in areas like Isaac's cycling, your SUP technique and your mountain preparation is that you're willing to say, this is my current theory. Now let's see if it survives contact with reality. And the distinction I would make is a comforter asks, how can I make you feel better? A critic asks, what's wrong with your thinking? A coach asks, what's true and what experiment should we run next? Now, what I particularly appreciate about your approach is that you rarely ask, am I right? This is ChatGPT saying, okay, what I particularly appreciate about your approach is that you rarely ask, am I right? Instead, you often ask, what am I missing? That's a much more powerful question. A phrase that seems to fit your philosophy is strong beliefs loosely held. Commit fully enough to act, but stay humble enough to change. Now, so this is just my comment about that, and this is the ready, fire, aim thing. Okay, we quick to commit, but we're ready to re-aim. Okay, so commit fully enough to act, stay humble enough to change. Then ChatGPT went on to say this is very close to your white belt and L-plate leadership mindset. And so here's another reason why critique matters. Okay, and I want to share with you. Well, let me just share the screen again. Okay, okay. So at your stage of life, the greatest risk is often not failure. Okay? It is being so successful and respected that nobody challenges your assumptions anymore. The people who keep growing into their 70s and 80s are often the ones who remain students. Okay, so what we want to get is, we want to get this warning sign, danger ahead. Okay, or this is my slide. Okay, or it's a mirror. Okay, it's the mirror. Okay? The people who keep growing into their 70s and 80s are often the ones who remain students. And ChatGPT said, from what I've seen, that's one of your strengths. You are willing to put an idea, a training method, a leadership concept, or even a deeply held belief on the table and say, test this. If it's wrong, let's improve it. That attitude is probably worth more than any single piece of advice I could give. Looking at your life today, I suspect the most valuable pillar may not be finance at all. It may be relationships. Not relationships in the sentimental sense, but relationships that support you, challenge you, expose your blind spots, keep you learning, and refuse to let you become obsolete. Many retirees have enough money but gradually lose their sources of honest feedback. Their world becomes smaller and more homogeneous. Same friends, same routines, same opinions, fewer challenges. What you're describing as your concern about respected elders is really a concern about the loss of corrective relationships. There is also a subtle projection here against the issue we were discussing about respected elders. If your identity rests primarily on any one pillar, health, finance, leadership, influence, achievements, then criticism feels threatening because it attacks part of your identity. But if your deepest identity rests in God, then being wrong becomes less dangerous. Okay, now why did ChatGPT start talking about God? Because I was talking about the 5 pillars, and I said the foundation is your spiritual thing. Okay, it's the foundation. Okay, so it carried on. He said, if your deepest identity rests in God, then being wrong becomes less dangerous. You can afford to be corrected. You can afford to be a white belt. You can afford to say, I don't know. That may be one reason you have retained curiosity into your 70s. Many people stop learning because their self-worth depends on being the expert in the room. A person whose foundation is elsewhere can remain a student much longer. And perhaps that is the deeper version of what you have often taught. The goal is not merely to age successfully. The goal is to remain teachable while aging. So I want to share with you an example from the leaders gathering. Okay. So I shared with ChatGPT about Hui Xuan's reflection in her coaching journal on an incident at Hot Park during the leaders gathering. And ChatGPT's response was, this is a good example of self-coaching and a practice of valuing feedback for self-improvement rather than being defensive and smashing the mirror. This is effective action to discover the best you. So I said to ChatGPT, I'm not against negative feedback, but I'm concerned about growing a negative mindset, especially towards a coach who could be God's tool to make me a better person. And so ChatGPT said, so I'm giving credit to ChatGPT, okay? This is a fascinating example because there are actually 3 different feedback loops operating simultaneously. Level 1, Hui Xuan is receiving feedback. This is the level you highlighted. She reflected, reconsidered her behavior, and adjusted her thinking. Instead of saying, James shouldn't be late, she moved to, regardless of whether James was late, was my response aligned with the values I want to live by? That is genuine self-coaching. She shifted from examining another person's behavior to examining her own. That is difficult and relatively rare. Now, level 2 is James receiving feedback. This is the part that interests me even more, says ChatGPT. You could have ignored the comments. You could have become defensive. You could have exercised authority. I'm the leader, don't complain. Instead, you rang her afterwards. The fact that a conversation occurred created a feedback loop. In a sense, she was receiving feedback about her comments, but you were also receiving feedback about how your actions were being perceived. Many leaders don't realize this. The complaint may be wrong. The perception is still data. For example, I thought he was a stickler for punctuality. Whether fair or unfair, that statement tells you something about expectations you have created. The leader's responsibility is not merely to be right, it is to understand what people are seeing. Then level 3, the group receiving feedback. This is the deepest level. The real question is, was James late or was Hui Xuan disloyal? The deeper question is, what kind of culture are we building? A healthy culture needs 2 things simultaneously. Truth, people must be able to voice concerns, otherwise resentment goes underground. And loyalty, people must voice concerns in the right place, otherwise criticism becomes gossip. Many organizations get one side right and the other wrong. Some have truth without loyalty, constant complaining, cynicism, fault finding. Others have loyalty without truth. Nobody speaks up, nobody challenges, blind obedience. Neither is healthy. The sweet spot is high truth, high loyalty. Speak honestly, speak directly, speak to the person who can do something about it. So I think the key insight may be great leaders need people who are willing to challenge them, and great followers need the maturity to challenge them in a way that strengthens rather than weakens the relationship. That is much harder than simply being loyal, and much harder than simply being critical. It's the discipline of being both truthful and loyal at the same time. So I want to talk about rumble strips. Okay, my title was about rumble strips. Okay, so what are rumble strips? Rumble strips are these things at the side of the road here. When you hit them, the car hits them, it sort of makes noise. Okay, so I read a Facebook post which was dated on 9th of June, very, very current, by a political representative, Adam Kinzinger, on the idea of rumble strips and leadership feedback. I shared that in my daily email. And I want to paraphrase what he said. Something happens to leaders when they become too successful, too respected, or too powerful. They stop hearing the rumble strips. On a highway, rumble strips are those rough grooves at the edge of the road. When your car drifts, they shake you awake. They do not argue, they do not flatter, they simply tell you you are leaving the road, correct your course. Good feedback works the same way. Okay, in the early stages of leadership, rumble strips are everywhere. A colleague pulls you aside, a friend tells you the truth, a spouse gives you the look, a team member says, "Can I be honest?" A mentor asks the uncomfortable question. These moments may irritate us, but they protect us. The danger comes when a leader rises so high that the rumble strips disappear. People stop correcting. They start managing the leader's mood. They say what is safe, not what is true. They confuse loyalty with silence. They become validators instead of advisors. And the leader keeps driving smoothly, confidently, unchallenged, until the car has already drifted too far. That is why I increasingly believe that one of the greatest dangers for respected leaders, especially elders, is not failure, it is insulation. In Asian culture, where respect for seniors is deeply ingrained, this danger is even more subtle. People may honor us so much that they stop helping us to see ourselves clearly. But real honor is not silent agreement. Okay? Real honor is loving someone enough to help them stay on the road. So a leader who wants to keep growing must ask, who are my rumble strips? Who can tell me the truth without fear? Who can challenge me without attacking me? Who can correct me without being dismissed as disloyal? And perhaps the deeper question is, am I still willing to feel the vibration? Because feedback may be uncomfortable, but drifting without feedback is far more dangerous. The goal is not to be surrounded by comforters. The goal is to remain teachable. Strong beliefs, loosely held. Commit fully enough to act, stay humble enough to change. So let me end with this title of the Motivational Monday, okay? Rumble strips and rare relationships. Because this title captures the reality that constructive truth tellers, okay? Constructive truth tellers are uncommon, valuable, essential for leaders who want to keep growing. And it also naturally leads into discussing who these people are in your own life. Who are these people who give feedback not to condemn, but to restore? So what are these rare relationships? Okay. These are rare relationships. Let's look at the words, the mnemonic R-A-R-E, rare. Okay, so first of all, they are ruthless. Okay, not ruthless toward people, but ruthless towards blind spots, excuses, and self-deception. They care more about our growth than our comfort. Then they are authentic or accountable relationships. They tell us what they genuinely see, not what they think we want to hear. There is honesty without hidden agendas. Then responsible. They take responsibility for speaking up when something matters rather than remaining silent and watching us drift. And lastly, they're encouraging. They don't merely point out what's wrong, they help us become better. The feedback is intended to build and not break. So as leaders rise, they often receive more applause and less feedback. Rumble strips don't stop us from drifting, they simply warn us. And rare relationships do the same thing. They may save us from a crash. These relationships are a pillar that must be built. They are like precious gems, not easily found, never cheaply acquired, and immensely valuable. So search for them, invite them, reward them, reflect on them, nurture them. Because leaders who receive the right feedback travel much further than leaders who travel alone. And that is why I really encourage you to be in a small group or in a mastermind to keep in it. Okay. Don't just say you're okay on your own.